Hello, thieves and thinkers. My name is TB Skyn, and welcome to the best Final Fantasy, at least in my decidedly on this subject not very humble opinion at all. Final Fantasy IX. Now, we have on this channel recently been through Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VIII, and Final Fantasy IX is very much a step in a completely different direction, where Final Fantasy VII is a sort of dystopian, neo-industrial, futuristic setting where, like, we have the Shinra Corporation draining the world dry, environmentalist themes all over the place, and Final Fantasy VIII is a high school teen romance drama set against, like, some serious themes about self-examination and personal identity. Final Fantasy IX harkens back to a very different version of the series, and it comes at the heels of two games which were, in their own way, extremely radical redefinitions of what a Final Fantasy game even is, because Final Fantasy 1 through 6 were all heavily grounded in the sort of classic, Campbellian monomyth, standard Tolkien-inspired Dungeons & Dragons-esque, with a lot of twists and a lot of interesting influences, but very much grounded in the aesthetic of that particular kind of medieval European fantasy. Something which 7 and 8 both went in completely different directions from and tried to do something very different. Final Fantasy IX then comes back and culls from that early history of the series a lot of the early influences, a lot of the early thoughts, and a lot of the early aesthetics of the game, and mixes them into something that is at once both entirely its own, but also has this incredibly, at least for the time, had this very retro throwback feeling to it almost, because it was a return to a kind of fantasy world that Final Fantasy just hadn't dealt with at all since the SNES days, pretty much. And to hear the director Hironobu Sakaguchi talk about the game as well, that was very much the intention. It was for him kind of okay, let's do one last hurrah for old Final Fantasy, for like the good old classic European medieval myth-making fantasy, classic JRPG, that style of Final Fantasy, and then from here on take the series in some new directions, which they certainly did with Final Fantasy X especially, and 11 turning it into an MMO. And that's part of what makes this game so special to me, is that this was the game that more than any other game in the series is fascinated and deeply concerned with exploring the idea of Final Fantasy as fairy tale, which is an aesthetic and an influence that we'll see all throughout this entire playthrough when I eventually start it after I'm done talking in about 20 minutes or so. I promise it won't be that long. And the reason why I think it's the best one is because it's the game that more than any other game, like more than 7, even more than even games like 6, this is the game that brought me into a world that feels full, that feels alive, that feels like just remarkably populated by cultures and people and histories that exist far, far, far beyond the mere influence of the player and the mere scope of just what we go through in our adventure in this particular world. It's a world that feels full and realized and feels populated and feels like it exists in that mythical fantasy space that exists at the back of everyone's mind who has ever read a fairy tale or had one read to them as children. More than any other game, this is the one that manages that. Now, Final Fantasy Tactics and the Ivalice games have something of a similar thing, but where they feel much more like games that have a grounded history and politics behind them in this sort of Tolkien-esque way, where, like, there's these old histories and people and kingdoms and blah blah, machinations and etc. Final Fantasy IX feels more like it's grounded in a world that has always existed in the realm of imagination, at least for me. And, well, I'll talk about that to an excessive degree as we get into the playthrough, no worries. So let's just hit new game. Actually, no, before we hit new game, one little note. I am not playing the vanilla version of Final Fantasy IX quite. First of all, this is the remaster, which was put out on PC, and secondly, I'm using a mod called Moguri, which does a few things. Like, it does some stuff to replace, to make the fonts look a little bit nicer after some stuff had been done to ruin them. I'm hoping I'll be able to install a font that completely restores the original fonts of the game, just because I like them from a retro aesthetic. But the main thing the Moguri mod does, and I'm going to have Future Skyn put some screenshots up on screen to show you right now, is it takes the old pre-rendered backgrounds of Final Fantasy IX, which were not properly remastered for the HD re-release, just they just were not. They looked absolutely awful in the vanilla release. It uses AI upscaling and a lot of like neural network machine learning, yada yada, to clean those backgrounds up and make them look proper in an HD remake. And this is, I think, I'm not as familiar with the production history of Final Fantasy IX as I am with 8 and 7, but I believe this is again a result of Square quite simply not having the necessary source files that they would need in order to like fully recreate all the assets for the game and create a true HD remaster. So what they did was just they just upscaled, like they just stretched all the backgrounds out so they look really muddy and ugly in the original version, and then you have these razor sharp character models walking around in them, and it looked absolutely awful. The Moguri mod, as we shall see, does a lot to address that, but I just wanted to point that out. Stop taking control away from me, game. I want to start this time. Let's enjoy the intro. Sure is dark. I guess no one's here yet. Thank you very much, Mr. Moogle. I'm well familiar with the controls. So, a little note about the production here. The pre-rendered cutscenes do look a lot better in the remaster than they did in the original. And I think that's because Square just basically grabbed higher fidelity source files, which they had available on hand, and were able to just like upscale more smoothly than they did with most of the backgrounds. So what I'm doing right now is I'm walking around and waiting for a little exclamation mark to appear over the head of my character. This is something that you do a lot in Final Fantasy IX because it subscribes again to that classic Final Fantasy idea that the environment should be explorable, there should be goodies hiding everywhere, there should be a reason to go around and examine everything, talk to everyone, which again is that very retro idea of a fantasy game. But let's start by just moving on to, well, introducing the combat ultimately. It's me, Sedan! Hey, Sedan, you sure are late. Ah, sorry. So where's the boss?
Not here yet.
I love the character design in this game so much. I just adore the character design in this game to an almost excessive degree. Look at these characters! Look at that! Look how different they are. Look at the variety of expression in their animation, in their physical design, like with Cinna having this large, round, fat body, Marcus with this slightly more classic sort of adventure story brigand style, and then Blank with his cool-ass sword slung over the shoulder and like the headband over his eyes, and like, oh, the character design in this game is so good. Anyway, welcome to the combat system. We're going to spend quite a bit of time, or maybe not so much, depending on the random chance generator, stealing from this guy, and I'll be stealing from a lot of people over the course of this playthrough, because this game is based around a protagonist who is a thief, and right now I'm hanging out with all my thief bros, so we're all just stealing stuff, but stealing is a central game mechanic in this game. And it's how you get a hold of, like, just every useful goddamn item. And so many important weapons and things. Okay, that's the wrist, and now we need the last thing from him. And you can steal multiple times from a lot of enemies. It does render some sequences kind of tedious where, like, most of your characters can't do anything while your main thief, Sedan, just stands around trying to steal. Which is a weakness of the combat system, but ultimately, there's also a lot of compelling fun in stealing things, and later on in the game we'll get some items that make stealing a little bit easier. So one thing you'll notice if you've been watching Final Fantasy 7 and 8 is that there seem to be more characters on screen this time around. In fact, I have 4 party members right now, which is part of the throwback of Final Fantasy 9. Because Final Fantasy began as a series where you had 4 party members, and 4 party members were the standard for the game series for a very long time, like pretty much until the transition to 3D with Final Fantasy VII, where there was a limit to just how many character models you could have in the battle scenes and still have the PS1 handle it, especially with early optimization. And so they kind of cut back on that, and they stayed with that for Final Fantasy VIII, where they used like much higher fidelity character models as well, and were really pushing the PS1 already at that point. And then with Final Fantasy IX, they managed to...
On my head! Go easy, you guys!
No, he needs a better voice. It's Baku.
Hey, fools! You're looking a lot better. All right, let's start this meeting already. Here's the plan. Tantalus, the infamous band of daring thieves, that's us, is heading to the Kingdom of Alexandria. Our mission, to kidnap the heir to the throne, Princess Garnet. I'll take it from here, so listen up. Our ship's about to dock at Alexandria, and when it does, we're gonna put on our costumes and perform I Want to Be Your Canary, the most popular play in Alexandria. Break a leg, Marcus, because you're playing the lead.
Leave the acting to me. Of course, the real kidnappers will be Blank and Sedan.
I'll distract the audience from backstage with these little buggers. I can't stand Oglops. But I'll manage, so don't worry about me. And that'll be your cue, Sedan.
And here we get the first... So I'm supposed to say, that's when I kidnapped Princess Garnet, right? But I can say, that's when I kidnapped Princess Garnet. Where Baku, yeah, says some fatphobic nonsense. Now, if I say that 64 times... If I choose this 64 times, there is a little scene where Baku goes, okay, that's enough, let's move on. But, like, who the fuck does that? Except insane completionists. And that's part of the sensibility of this game. Like, that's part of the classic sensibility of this game, where little Easter eggs like that, where there's a special scene only if you select the wrong option in the first dialogue choice that you get 64 times, you get one inconsequential tiny little extra special scene, if you want, is part of what makes this game so special, and we'll talk about that way more as we get into it. That's when I cringe at.
You bet. You're gonna kidnap the most babylicious beauty in all of Alexandria, Princess Garnet.
Look at the character designs. And look at my boy! My little boy! Oh, Vivi, you're the best one. Along with Freya. And the music. It hits so good. And here you can see the pixelation that would be present in the old character models and certainly in some of the old pre-render sequences. And then as it kicks in, look how the character models clean up in the HD release.
But you alright? Yeah, you drop your ticket. Bye-bye.
Oh, say hello to my boy, Vivi. My good, excellent boy. Now, I need the controller to remember where it is. Well, we'll do that later, but, yeah. And then we'll do battle speed up to a little faster right now. And you can get the sort of boring gray switched out for classic blue, which again is a throwback to the very early NES days of the Final Fantasy franchise, where all the text boxes would always be blue on white, or white on blue, rather. So, this version of the game also comes, like the other remasters, with certain boosters, where basically I can tell the game to just, like, give me maximum money, as max level, and all abilities in the whole game, like, right from the start. But it also has a few other little tricks up its sleeve, which I think... Or are they not available in this version? Okay, it's supposed to have a speed booster, but... not so much.
Why, you get out of my way!
Get away from me! Wow, no move!
So, this is also, like, this scene right here is also what I mean when I say that Final Fantasy IX feels like the most populated game. I thought this would have the speed booster. I googled around about it, but no, apparently not. This game feels like the most alive and populated, because, like, look at these town scenes especially. And look at these characters, look at this fish man! Look at this fishman looking bastard. Look at him just walking around like he belongs here. How cool is that?
Criminals like us have to watch the play from the rooftops, far away from the stage.
Like this bird lady who's a noble, and this dude right here who's also clearly a noble, but he's like some kind of furry. He's like,
Why, you're no sissy child, and you're not a noble child either.
Oh, these street urchins are simply dreadful.
So, this thing pops up over my head whenever I can examine something or talk to someone, and it's a little bit annoying. It's because the Final Fantasy IX Remaster is a port of a version that was created for mobile devices, ultimately. So these two icons are necessary in order for you to choose how you want to interact with the character. But as you can see, there's a card game in this version of Final Fantasy, much like there was in Final Fantasy VIII. And you can find and collect cards for the game around the world. You can win them off people, and it's incredibly complicated. I have never figured out how to play this goddamn card game. See, there's a zombie card. I'll show it to you as part of, like, the game introduces the card game to you. But we won't, like in Final Fantasy VIII, we won't be spending any time on it, because unlike Final Fantasy VIII, where there are some really, like, distinct, tangible rewards for playing the card game, not so much in Final Fantasy IX. It's just that, like, there are some things connected to it, and there's some rewards you can get, but it's nothing nearly as overpowered as it is in Final Fantasy VIII, where you can literally break the game by playing cards.
Nobles always come to Alexandria to see the annual performance.
This gate leads outside. I should see if I can't get that to happen a little faster as well. Thank you.
Kids shouldn't leave the city by themselves, you know.
And even the environments in this game are just gorgeously designed. Because, like, if you remember back to Final Fantasy VII, when they first started doing this pre-rendered CGI background thing, a lot of the environments, like, they were gorgeous, but there was also a reason why they chose to set, like, the first 7 hours of the game, 4, 5, 7 hours of the game in a place like Midgar, this synthetic environment, and why the natural environments in Final Fantasy VII oftentimes looked kind of plastic and a little bit stale. And Final Fantasy IX just has, like, look at all these buildings have personality. Look at them. Like, roofs that are sagging a little bit, like roof tiles that you can see the shadows under them, and, I'm just gonna gush about this game for a long time. Eventually I'll stop, I'm sure, but, I'm gonna go on. Say hello to the old woman.
Just a little longer.
Darling, I'm home.
I'm not done with Ilia's dress yet. Come back later.
Every year's always the same. You're spoiling them grandkids, I say.
This pattern is making me dizzy.
I need a good voice for Vivi. He's my boy. He's the good boy. So, I'm not gonna do it because it always makes me feel bad, but you can go up here and you can examine the dresser, and then you can steal the old woman's savings. You can just pick them up and grab them. I am gonna grab the potion, though, because that's useful. It's only 2 gil, but it's like there. You can just walk into her house and steal her stuff, which, again, classic Final Fantasy. There's a potion. And Final Fantasy's history being Final Fantasy, there is a side quest in this game that is locked behind finding and opening every single treasure chest in the entire game, as well as all of these little optional, like, items that you can find around the environment. Every single goddamn one is logged by this game, and you get ranked on how many of them you find, and if you get absolutely every one of them, you get a special reward.
Honorable nobles of Tetra, Castle Alexandria is this way.
And again, look at the character design of those nobles, man. I think I have a mouse. Yes, you can see my mouse. Like, look at, like, the frilly dress with, like, the pleated feather pattern and the big hat, giving her sort of a kind of quasi-1950s aesthetic next to this complete fop of a man. Like, look at that hairdo. Look at that coat. Look at this bird-looking herald fellow. And look what he's about to do. Bah. And look at this guy over here. Let me just... Oh, my controller died. Well, at least it didn't happen in the middle of Dark Souls this time. And I just knocked over my trash can. That's great. Because the wire for the controller was tangled up behind the trash can. Thank you, I can move again. Okay. Hippo boy. Named Hippo.
Wow, Nobles is so posh.
It's just a hippo boy. There's a boy here who's just a hippo. And the thing I love about Final Fantasy IX is that it never explains any of it. Like, there's never any, oh yes, long ago, all the different races were blah blah created by creator myth, backstory, whatever nonsense. No. There's just hippo people here, and fish dudes, and like bird ladies, and dudes who look like some person's persona. They're just here. And they just exist, and there's no explanation, there's no backstory, there's no, like, mythical past about, oh, once upon a time all the races lived in harmony, blah, blah, blah. No, none of that. They just exist. They're just here, as natural as every human being in the world. And that's... I don't think it's wrong to have, like, fully fleshed out fantasy Tolkien-esque stories where, like, every race has, like, 5,000 years of backstory and personal history behind them. I don't think it's wrong, but this feels so much like... This is why Final Fantasy IX feels so much more like a trip through the imagination, is that, oh yeah, there's just bird people here, and like walking upright talking rat people exist, and there's like these things just exist, because of course they do. There's a fantasy world. You don't need to have an explanation. It's something everyone takes for granted, and no one ever questions, and it feels so natural because of it. There's also red mages. I don't know why I'm depressed. I have a ticket to see a great show. I should be happy. Honestly, mood. Gotta get back to work. Yeah, we should be busy tonight. But it'll also be the last time we'll be so busy. And by the way, notice how many characters have names. They're not just NPCs or randos. Like, you have some people who are like male red mage, and some people who are like street urchin and stuff, but so many of them, like Hip Hall over here, they also have names, which again is one of those things that, like, again, this feeling of a living world. Like this guy, Mick, we'll never see him again. Wow, how'd you get a ticket for the show? You better head straight to the ticket booth in the square. You have to get your ticket stamped there before you can enter the castle. And the environments are also a lot of fun. Like, look at the cupboards and drawers behind this guy. Look at the one that's kind of left ajar, and some of the, like, one of the cupboards, like where one of the lids, one of the doors has fallen off. And like the sense of, oh hey, you can see there's a stairway leading up back here, up to a bed up top. So this guy lives in his shop, like he lives where he works as well. And all the like random stuff that he's just got lying around, including 38 gil on the floor that I'm just gonna grab. And his name is Doug. Doug. So, I'm not gonna need antidotes and eye drops just yet. I'm gonna grab a Phoenix down and a single potion, and just 2 of them in case I'll run into... Yeah, probably not, but it might be useful to have. And again, places like Alexandria, the cities, like there's always gonna be stuff like this. Just NPCs hanging out, doing stuff. And... You want to try? So, the jumping rope minigame, it has a special reward that you can get if you, I think it's like 200 jumps in succession, and if you do that, I have my 3 precious cards in a safe place. And if you do that, yeah, sure, you can have a special reward if you do that 250 times. And again, if you want the best special treasure hunter reward at the end of the game, I believe this also is one of the things that's actually necessary for that. Anyway.
What do you mean there's no vacancies?
Yes, you see, I'm really quite sorry.
What? I don't believe this. I have a reservation, damn it. Jeez. Yikes. City people are so scary.
I'm sorry, no vacancies today.
Pardon me, sir. Out of the way, please.
I love this game so much. I just do. Because there's so much in this game that is entirely pointless, that doesn't need to exist at all. And we've talked about that before in Final Fantasy 7 and 8. Like, that part of the aesthetic of those games is that they have a whole bunch of, like, side quests and things that you can do and things that you can complete that are completely unnecessary. So it's like that, and completely missable. Stuff that you'll never see. And this game has that, like, lots of side quests and stuff. But more than that, it also just has this extra dimension of... And I find it hard to explain or define as such, but like I said, like much more of a sense of a living, breathing world outside of you. Stuff like this.
Three heroic knights of Pluto. This statue was built to commemorate the 3 knights who fought bravely in the 15th Lindblom War in 1601.
15th. There's been 14 before it. And we don't even know what year this is. Speaking of which, I kind of ignored the other statue back here, so let me just go. We're gonna explore so much in this game. And I'm not gonna find everything, because I never ever have. By the way, there's one... there's a side quest in this game that you can only complete if you get to a certain point in Disc 4 in less than 10 hours. Like, there's a speedrunning challenge built into this game from 2000. Heroine statue.
This statue was built to commemorate General Madeline, who fought in the 9th Lindblom War in 1389. At the tender age of 13, General Madeline fought against the Lindblom army with only 9 soldiers under her command. She died in 1401, well before her time.
Oh, that's a fish guy. Bum, bum, ba-da-da-da-dum, bum, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. I just like look at this house, like look at this bar, okay? This tavern. Look at the stuff they have like over their doorway, like that lyre and those two, I don't know what they are, spatulas and the stars that then mirror the star that they've got on their weather vane up on top. And like the roofs that are like sagging and those bulging balconies. Oh, everything in this game is so good. All of it. So yeah, if you don't like gushing, you're not gonna have a good time in this playthrough, because we're gonna gush. Dante, the sign maker.
Can't you see I'm working? Don't interrupt.
Oh, don't worry, Dante, we won't. Until later. Gimme. No.
Rooftops for the masses. No nobility, no ticket, no problem. Enjoy the show from the rooftops. Assemble here by the steeple at sundown. Together, the people will prevail.
Proletariat patrons movement.
Oh, hello again.
This is the girl who helped me with my ticket. And there's a thing here.
My kitten Mittens ran away. Tell me if you see him, okay?
And you can say yes. I'll tell you if I see him. And you can see the cat. Like, I think he's hanging out on a rooftop somewhere, and you can see him. But you can't ever go back to the kid and tell him. Like, I've wrecked my head over this for so long. If anyone knows, let me know, because I've never seen it in a guide. Whether this is an actual side quest that you can complete, like you can find his cat for him, or if they just put a yes-no prompt there for no reason.
Yeah, newfangled mist-powered ships float through the air, but true ships are supposed to float on water, right, Sonny?
Hey kid, don't even try to think about sneaking into the castle by boat. I tried that last year, but them guards, they caught me double quick.
Bum, 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 bum. Oh, there it is. Is that a card? Nope. I know there's one more thing here. Pretty sure there's one behind here, too. No? No. Received Hippol's Treasure, Ironite card, Goblin card, and a Fang card. Remember that little hippo boy we talked to? Yeah, I just stole his cards from him because I'm mean and evil. And also just because I wanted to show you that, like, that's the level we're at with this goddamn game. Also, the little girl who came running out of the door there, when she's out of the door, I think she's going to be back now, but Yeah, but when you see it running out of the door, you can run back into the house, then you can run upstairs, and there's more items for you to loot up there if you want to. We don't need them, so we won't, and I'm not gonna go for the 100% treasure completion because it'll add like 15 hours to the game time. But I just want you all to see how much there's here. How much stuff, how much character and personality. Here's Ryan.
Yeah, which sort to buy? I wish I had a little more money.
You keep telling my son we'll go out of business, but he never comes home. I'm taking my wife to the theater tonight, so we shall close soon. Married for 30 years, worked our rear ends off, and finally, we can afford tickets to the show. I'm so happy.
Gimme. No, not you. Thank you. Ether. Those are kind of important because they're very valuable and we're going to be selling them for money whenever we run out of cash.
The blossoms at Alexandria are quite splendid, don't you think?
Do you like flowers too?
Hey, can I help you, son? This year's performance is the masterpiece I want to be your canary. The Tantalus Company's performing. The Kingdom of Alexandria is a fine kingdom ruled by Queen Bran. What's this? There's something odd about this ticket. Why, it's another fake! I've seen so many today.
No! And then piano sound.
Now, don't cry. Know how you must feel. Here, I'll give you these. Don't try to cheer up now, huh? Talk to Alleyway Jack to learn more about cards. Good luck, lad.
Dun, 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 dun. So, now we've got a bunch of cards, finally. And that's, I think at this point we collected enough that we can actually play. Now, I don't know what anything in this card... I don't know what any of the numbers on the cards mean. I don't know what the... I think the P and the M is like physical or magical damage, but I don't know how that ties into anything. I don't know why this guy has a 10 on him. I don't know why he's 1P00, 1 poo. I don't know why he's no poo. They just are. Triple Triad is an immensely complicated game. They recycled it for Final Fantasy XI, I think. And then again for 14.
Blasted! Now you make me miss a little klutz. That should do it. Well, it's been a long day.
Hey, you, Shrimp! You're the one with the phony ticket, ain't you? I saw the guy tell you it was fake. Are you Alleyway Jack? Do I look like that loser? But I'll let you in to see the show if you become my slave. Well, what do you say?
And you do have to say,
All right. Awesome! Now for your first assignment. You go stand over there and see if anyone's coming. All clear? Yeah, it's clear. Awesome! Engaging according to mission parameters.
look at that little stumble he does when he picks the big ladder up. So good! Say hello to Alleyway Jack, by the way, who has rather a lot of arms, doesn't he? And who also just stole, goddammit, stole some of my money. I wanted to talk to him. Goddammit. I need him to show us the card game. I think he shows up again. Yeah, hello, Alleyway Jack.
Excuse me? But is your name Alleyway Jack?
Huh? How'd you know my name? But if you know who I am, you probably want to challenge me to a card game, huh? What? You don't know how to play and you want me to teach you? Well, yeah, why not? I finished one job already. Follow me, kid. We'll start with the basics. You need 5 cards to play the card game. To play a game, approach someone and blah blah.
How does the card game proceed? Let's talk about how to actually play the game. You take turns placing your cards on a 4-4 grid with your opponent. Sometimes your opponent's card flips. That's because of the yellow arrows in the corners and the sides. If your arrow is facing the direction of your opponent's card, that card becomes yours. But if your opponent's card has an arrow facing yours, a card battle begins. When several arrows face each other, multiple card battles may occur. You can choose where to begin the card battle when that happens. Where you choose to begin the battle affects how the rest of the battles play out. Let's see, you can also use combos. Anyway, I'm not gonna voice all of this, but basically this is a lot. This is the only town when called Alleyway Jack. I go by other names elsewhere. They're also just aliases, of course. You wanna know my real name? I'll tell you when you get better.
Thank you.
Remember Alleyway Jack, he's possibly gonna come up again. Anyway, let me show you Triple Triad, or Tetra Master rather. I don't have any idea if I'm gonna win this. I have no idea how to play it. Outside of the very basics. Like, I don't... So, the card battles are in some way determined by the numbers on the cards. But the game never explains this to you at all. Like, not even a little bit. Like there, why did that thing have 150? I don't know. It just did, because of reasons. And why did that one have 7 while mine, exactly identical card, had 5? I don't know, because of reasons. But anyway, that's a combo. That's another combo. Because of reasons. No, we don't, like, I don't know how this game works at all. I just wanted to show it to you. Some people got really fucking addicted to it and started figuring it out. There are guides online that will tell you exactly how all of it works in exhausting detail. I can't be bothered. It's like, it's one of those things where, again, it's so extra, they put in so much effort.
Over here!
To make it cool.
Don't fall behind! Into the stable!
To make it cool. But it's also one of those things where it's like, I don't want to look at cards all day. I want a cool fantasy thing in nice world.
Now we're gonna climb up this tower. It's very dangerous. You go first.
Look at the lovely stained glass in the background here, and the decorations on the steeple itself, like the little church tower. Anyway.
No! What the heck was that?
Sorry about that.
Ah, that's Kupo. He's a Moogle. And this is slave number 1. Try to get along, okay?
Pleased to meet you. I'm sorry. I enter you into a Moogle diary. If you want the save game onto save folder, just ask us Moogles. And you can regain health if you have a 10.
I get it.
Glad I can help.
All right, time for some upward mobility. Okay, come on up, slave.
Kaboo. Wheel.
Come on, Stelskin. Why that getup? You're leaving? Come on.
Yeah, and this time I might be away for a long time.
I'll miss you. Come on.
No, don't you worry. All right.
Okay, come on.
Well, I'm off. Take care. Remember Stillskin, he's gonna come up. Oh, and say hi to Mosh in the castle for me.
Was that a friend of yours? Yeah, kaboom. A very special one. Kaboom.
Hey, slave, I thought I ordered you up here.
Yes. Here's Mognet, which is a mail delivery system between Moogles. Basically, it means every Moogle you run into, you can ask them about whether or not they have some mail or whether they'd like to receive some mail. And again, there's a thing locked behind this, and it's actually kind of a major thing, so I'm going to try my best to complete the Mognet thing, which gets really complicated after a while. So I'm probably going to use a guide to make sure that I get all of those, because there is a pretty cool thing locked behind, like a story thing, something that actually like does stuff with the world. So I'm gonna try and do that, but it's gonna be a long one. For now, though, I think 45 minutes of me endlessly gushing over how cool this world is and getting absolutely nowhere. Like, people could have gotten through this in 2 minutes. Yeah, we'll just overwrite. I'm not gonna play that file. Is probably gonna be enough. So, if you've enjoyed, well, me getting excited over Final Fantasy IX and its world and getting endlessly fascinated with all the cool little details in there, hit the like, comment, and or subscribe buttons. This is a relatively short opening episode, but the next ones will be like an hour and probably more, because this is a game that demands quite a bit of time, frankly. You can also watch my playthroughs of Final Fantasy 6, 7, and 8, which are also on this channel. You know, if you want the context to see why Final Fantasy 9 was such a throwback to an earlier era of the game's history. I have a Patreon, I have a merchandise store, I have a tip jar. You can use them if you want, and if you don't want to, that's completely okay as well. And if you want, there's also memberships available on this channel, which are like $1 a month, and you get some perks and stuff. And if you don't want to do any of that, that's fine too. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to wash your hands, and I am so happy that I'm going to be playing this game on this channel. Boop, boop.